imagine you're a care worker taking a group of seniors out for a day down at the beach. You're all having a wonderful time, enjoying the beautiful weather, eating fish and chips for lunch and feeding the seagulls before you go piling back into the bus and returning home. But about halfway through your hour-long drive back to the centre, someone realises that Millie, one of your clients, a lady with dementia, is not with you. And you have that, sugar moment. I forgot to do a head count and we've left her behind. Now, after a frantic call to the local police to inform them of the incident and asking if they'll go to take a look for Millie, you return to the beach where you find a lovely policeman who's found Millie, and they're sitting at one of the picnic tables. Millie's happily watching the world around her. She's drinking a soft drink that the policeman bought for her, and she's chatting to the policeman. He lets you know that she was mildly distressed and appeared confused when he found her, but she settled down quickly once she had a drink and someone with her. All's well. You've calmed down some of the other clients who were distressed over the incident. You've given Millie another drink and made sure that she's feeling okay. You can head back home again with the knowledge that all is well. Now, once you've dropped everyone off, you would of course be writing up an incident report, which is the usual response to this sort of thing. But now there's another step that you have to take, because this is an incident that's regarded as a serious incident under the Serious Incident Response Scheme, or SIRS. And although it appears that Millie wasn't harmed by her experience, it had the potential to result in serious harm for her. And you need to report it as part of complying with SIRS. That's today's topic. We're looking at what are those incidents that are considered serious and reportable under the scheme. Hi, I'm Carrie from Culturally Directed Care Solutions, where we give you the knowledge and tools to provide quality care with confidence. Now, we discussed SIRS in our last video and outlined why the scheme was introduced and how it fits within your incident management system. I suggest you go and watch that if you haven't done so already. We identified in that last video that SIRS incidents are a subset of incidents that you'll already be reporting on and responding to as part of your incident management system. There are 8 types of incidents that are reportable under the scheme, and they are incidents where harm has occurred to a client or where it could reasonably have been expected to have caused harm to the older person or to another person during the course of providing or not providing services. The incident types that you need to be reporting on are an unreasonable use of force. For example, hitting, punching or kicking a client, throwing something at them or roughly handling the person. It also includes making threats of physical harm. Unlawful sexual contact or inappropriate sexual conduct, which includes not only things like engaging in sexual acts with a client, but also things like exposing a consumer to the sexual behaviour of others, using sexual innuendos or sexually explicit language, showing the person pornography, taking intimate images of the person. Now, there's a lot more information on what is considered inappropriate under this incident type, and that's covered in the SIRS guidance material that's been developed by the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission. So I recommend you read through that. I'll put a link to that resource in the description box below to make it easier for you to find it. Next up is psychological or emotional abuse. Now, this includes things like bullying and harassing a client, making inappropriate comments or jokes about a person based on their gender or cultural identity, or doing things repeatedly that annoy the person, like flicking them or bumping them, calling them by the wrong name or ignoring their preferences. Perhaps these things are not harming the person outright. We're not necessarily going to see bruises, but over time, these actions can cause distress. So if you see this, it needs to be reported under SIRS. This next one is pretty obviously a serious incident, and that is an unexpected death while providing services, or because you didn't provide a planned service, or because the client used something provided by the organisation. For example, a client dies as a result of hitting their head when they fell out of the car onto the pavement during a transport service. Or a person dies due to a wound that became infected because of poor clinical care that the provider was responsible for. Of course, it might be difficult to know exactly what a person dies from, especially if the staff member is not around at the time or there's no coronial inquest. But if it does link back to the provider, it must be reported. Stealing or financial coercion by a staff member is a reportable incident as well. Now, while stealing might be obvious, financial coercion might include things like encouraging a client to add them as a beneficiary to their will, or ask the person to buy them something or loan them money. Neglect is another serious incident. We've actually covered off on this in a separate video topic, so go and check that video out once you've finished here. Now, neglect includes both actions and inactions by the provider or staff member. For example, not delivering a meal to a client so they go hungry for that day, not changing someone's continence aids in a timely manner, or perhaps not supervising a client properly when they're in the shower so that they have a fall. Or it could be failing to notice and respond when a client experiences acute deterioration. And if you need a reminder about what to look for in relation to deterioration in a client, then check out the video that went out a couple of weeks ago on that very topic. Then we have inappropriate use of restrictive practices by a staff member. A restrictive practice is anything that restricts the right or freedom of movement of a client. Now, if someone has a behaviour support plan, it will outline when and how a restrictive practice can be used if that's relevant to the behaviours being managed. Used appropriately, that's not an issue. The use of a restrictive practice becomes reportable in home care when the staff member does something that's not in line with the client's documented needs. Some more common restrictive practices you might see in home care could be someone locking the front and back doors so that the client can't leave the home while the care worker is busy vacuuming. Or sitting the person in front of a table or taking a walking frame away so the person is prevented from getting up and moving around. While the care staff often have the best intentions, if it's not an approved practice in the person's care and services plan, it will be reportable under SIRS. And lastly, we have missing consumers. I think you get the idea of what this means when you think back to Millie's story where she was left behind on the group outing after they went to the beach. It also includes where a client goes missing from overnight respite though, or when they wander off while a staff member is providing services in the home. For example, the care worker might be watching the TV while they're doing the ironing and they don't hear the person with dementia leaving the house, and that person goes missing for a few hours. Even if they're found and all is well, this still needs to be reported as a serious incident because something could have gone horribly wrong for the person. Now, I need to emphasise that many of these incidents may occur outside service delivery. Neglect can come from a family carer or financial abuse from the person's niece, or a person might wander away from a family picnic and become lost. While distressing, these are not SIRS because they don't occur while the client is receiving care or services from you, or because you didn't do your job. We'll explore the topic of what is not a SIRS incident further in our next video. I really encourage you to visit the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission website and download a copy of their Serious Incident Response Scheme guidelines for providers of home services. This will be an invaluable resource in understanding the application of SIRS, and also keep an eye out for other resources that they will be developing to help home care providers and staff.